Hi guys, it's me, Carrie Silver Lining Manna, and thank you for joining me again as I continue with my journey. In this episode, it's kind of long, so I'm going to try so hard to keep my intro short. I have so much to say. I've learned so much is going on right now with me, so I think I'm going to take a lot of what I learned and make a solo video next, but I always gotta, correct my mistakes and all that. I love having this opportunity to fix my video typos. So this episode is actually basically a reading, and I had Michelle Gray come and channel Volty for me because, Voltaire is one of my most trusted friends. So he came and helped me solve some of the mysteries and put things into perspective let me just, I don't have any order to what I'm going to say. I have good news and bad news. The bad news is that my sound's a little bit off. There's points in the video where I sound like I got dinosaurs in my room. But the good news is that I figured out why. And even though my microphone is hooked up to my computer, I also got to open up the Zoom settings and allow my microphone to go through there. So I didn't do it this time, but I have figured it out for the next time. I hope, fingers crossed. It's only going to take me like 6 months to master this thing, but I'll get there. The other thing is I kind of wanted to apologize to Michelle a little bit. I just jumped right in and said, "What's your website?" I didn't do a proper introduction or anything. And she has been so incredibly sweet. And oh gosh, here it comes. I know she feels the same way because every time we communicate, we just are feeling each other. And it was like, even though we've met before a couple of times, this experience just really blasted both of our hearts open for each other. And so I was just nervous. I didn't do a good intro because I was nervous, but she did such a good job. Her heart is so big. I love this girl so much, and I'm keeping her forever. Go get a reading from her. Watch her on Channeling Eric. Whatever else she ever does, you follow along because she's something special. And I'm so grateful for the opportunity to connect with her in this way and learn what I did. So thank you, Michelle. And we did this video. I just want to, so I don't know how much to talk about now and how much to put off till later. So I'm just going to roll with it, see what falls out, and I'll fill in the blanks another day. One of the reasons that this video meant so much to me is because Volty spilled a big bean. He spilled a big old bean about my fairy boy, and it just made my heart swell up so much. And the reason he was allowed to spill this bean to me is because I no longer felt the need to know. I have come to a place of surrender, that control. And so, because I don't need to control it any longer, I'm allowed to have the information that I wanted, but was afraid to get. I felt like it was fear of being disappointed. But Volty said it was because I just didn't need to know it anymore. And I guess they're both true. Another thing about this video is that we talk about my surgery. And if you follow along on Facebook, I did not have surgery. I was told back in September when I had my appendectomy that I would need hernia surgery. So I booked an appointment to get surgery, and the doctor meant for me to do this in like November or December, but there's just so much going on. I had my Silver Linings event. I had, and I got all my kids shit. It's their birthday in December and it's Christmas. And if you're a parent, then you know that Christmas is like nothing but work. If they're little, it's not so bad, but there's a lot of work. When they get in that middle age where they're still trying to, believe in Santa and you want to keep that from them, that's the biggest challenge. But there's still a challenge even when they're older too. Mostly it's going to the store and returning shit they're not going to want. It's insane. And then my twins had their 12th birthday, so we celebrated their actual birthday. We took them out to an amusement park, and then in January, I went ahead and threw them a party. And so I had all this stuff going on. I had anyway, I had so much to do. So I got all my ducks in a row, and I got everything just squished up. I was exploding for like the past several months. And so what ended up happening was that the doctor said, I made a mistake. You don't need this surgery after all. And he showed me the images, and sure enough, there is no tear. I don't need to have hernia surgery. And he must have thought I was the weirdest person ever because I was pissed. I was like, I wanted my downtime. I was pissed that I didn't get surgery. So my husband ended up, our day was cleared. We went out to lunch and got $5 cheeseburger and fries, my favorite, my favorite special in town. And then we went home and I'm like dragging my feet in because it's back to the grind. As soon as I get home, we put my dog outside because, chew on shoes. She actually doesn't. She's a good girl, but my husband still has rules and he wants her outside. But it was raining, so she was covered in mud. So as soon as I get in, instead of doing my downtime, I got to take my dog. I bring her in the shower with me and I bathed her. So I was like, fuck. So I was like, okay, whatever. I resigned that even though my calendar was clear, I knew I'd just have to fall into regular stuff. But what ended up happening, and this is a little bit tragic, but I see the beauty in it, is that my husband's mama, she's on her way out. She's on her way to passing. And she's not on her way. She just did a couple days ago. And the night that or the day I was to have my surgery, he found out, he got a call. It said, things are pretty dire and we need you to come out here. So that day he flew out and he truly carries the weight of the world on his shoulders. And interestingly enough, there's a spiritual basis for everything. He has frozen shoulder. So his physical ailment is a direct correlation with the emotions that he feels of having the weight of the world on him. And he really does. So even though he's got siblings, it was him that had to go out and buy the plot and take care of the lawyers and take care of the doctors and do all the arrangings, et cetera, et cetera. So he's still doing that. He came home for one day and he went right back. And just a little side note, his mom, and I see the bigger picture. I don't have any problem talking this shit. His mom wasn't much nicer than my mom. In fact, if I got to say which one, I got to say mine was probably a little bit nicer than his was. But we have different journeys, and it's so interesting that we both had like kind of shitty moms, but he maintained a very loving relationship with his, whereas I never felt love for mine. And we used to kind of fight about it. And, before I understood about, healing and journeys and, life plans, whatever it was, he would, he'd get on me and say, how dare you not love your mother? She's your mother. He took that stance. And I'd be like, why the fuck would you love somebody that treats you that way? So we would fight about it. And now, and we can reflect on it and just see that we are different people with different paths, with different, different things to learn and teach. So that was very interesting to me. So he is really, really grieving hard. And, so I'm sending him my love from afar, but isn't that interesting that right when I needed the downtime, he takes off. And it's no secret that he and I love him to death. He loves me. We are a family, but we don't always see eye to eye. And if you've been married for 30 years like I have, that it's just different to have the house to yourself. It's a different dynamic, and he's so orderly and he's militant about things. So we're just really letting our hair down. And I didn't have the pressure of being, married to him. And my kids, they're so easy. They're so independent. I spent this time really just nurturing my inner child. So the universe, I didn't even need to have the surgery in order to have the downtime. I got the message. And I don't know if, you're going to learn about how we go on different timelines, and that's how spirit can find ways to get us to believe things when they might not necessarily be true in the long run, just to get us to a place where we need to be. And I kind of accused spirit of tricking me, and I can still consider it a trick, but I don't feel like it's a devious trick. I feel like it was a necessary process, a necessary plan to get me to where I needed to be. So if you feel like you're being tricked, there is a method to the madness, and it all worked out in the end. So I can consider this a trick too. I was tricked into believing that I needed surgery when really I was just tricked into getting my ducks in a row so that I can have this time, because I have crossed a threshold and I needed to just chill the fuck out and let this new light absorb into me so I can recalibrate. And what's so interesting about this is that once I learned that I had this freedom of just relax and let my hair down without being like, taken care of by somebody else. I'm meant to take care of myself. That's what this whole journey with the twin stuff is finding self-love, being self-reliant and not depending on others. And, it kind of carried over in other ways, in that just nonsense bullshit happened in the house. And my husband, like I said, he's militant. He likes to control things. So it's not like I'm not doing my part or being lazy, but when something happens, he wants to address it. He wants to do it the right way. And so like one of our smoke detectors went off, and I tried everything. I did what anybody would do. I'd change the battery, I reset it, I did it all. Nothing was working for this. And he even said he just changed the battery. I didn't want to burden him with the bullshit problem. So even though I couldn't fix it, I just ripped that fucker out of the wall. He can deal with it when he gets home. Another thing that happened, I haven't even told him this because I don't want to burden him. But my dog got sick and I had to take her to the vet, and I'll figure it out soon enough when he sees the bill. He won't mind. But there's just all these little things that I see that I am capable of taking care of things on my own, but forget that kind of stuff. That really wasn't what it was all about. It was all about taking care of me, my heart, my needs, not needing to be fed from an external source to find my place of joy. So all I could remember from the video, I didn't watch the reading for a while, but all I could remember was that this is a time to take care of me. And I didn't even want the responsibility. I want zero responsibilities. I didn't want to cook. I didn't want to clean. I didn't even want to think about really taking care of myself in like an adult way. I wanted to take care of myself in a kid way. And I was just lazy. I would watch TV. I'd stay in my pajamas late. I'd take lots of warm baths, all of just the creature comforts that you think of what a toddler would need. Think of a toddler. And what do you do to a toddler when you're at the doctor's office and they just get their vaccinations and they're crying and hurt? What do? You pop a lollipop in that kid's mouth. And not that I went on some big food binge, that wasn't it, but I did even feed my inner child. And it's so interesting that I did not put this together until like a week later. But I have a favorite candy, and I'm going to show it to you right now. I love me some jujubes. Remember these things? And I don't even know why I like them, because if I had tried them as an adult, I'd be like, ugh, because they're super hard. They're supposed to be soft. They're super hard. They crack. They get stuck in your teeth for forever. They can pull out a damn feeling. Sometimes they taste like soap. But those were my kid candies. And they don't make them very often. I mean, you can't find these things. So I went to my regular grocery store and they weren't there. And I was like, fuck. I went to another grocery store and they weren't there. So I tried to replace them. I got some licorice and I got some chewy sweet tarts. And those are my some of my favorites, but they're not the favorite. They are not the childhood favorite. And I went to like 4 or 5 different stores all week long. I could not find jujubes. I was getting ready to order them off the internet. And I didn't recognize yet what a mission I was on to get this favorite candy. Then I went into Walgreens, and sure enough, there they were. They were on sale too. Instead of $1.69 a box, I could get 4 boxes for $1. 4 boxes for $4. So that's just what I did. I bought myself 4 damn boxes of candy on top of the licorice and sweet tarts I already had. Layla is loving my inner child nurturing. We're kicking back and we're watching movies and we're eating all my candy. She's having a great time. We're brushing each other's hair. She has been my sweet little bestie and just being a kid with me. She loves it when I'm not dieting. So we shared all of the candy, but I did save this one box in case I needed to do a little bit more nurturing. I think I'm going to get into this today. Maybe eat the whole damn thing. We'll see. Maybe I'll even share it with the kid. So it's interesting to me, and I watched the video finally. I watched this video yesterday, and I got such a kick out of seeing how all of these suggestions that Voltaire made for me, I went ahead and did it. And that makes me feel like I am in tune. And even though I'm not getting like these direct messages, I'm not having a conversation, I'm just sensing what I need and I'm doing it. And did you happen to see, if you haven't seen it, go watch it because I love this so much. But the last Stardust that we just posted, Heather and I talk a bit about our Stardust event. If you're not interested in it, skip ahead, find out where she takes her glasses off, and that's where the channeling starts. If you are interested, find out what happens and come on out to the desert because it is so fun. But I learned that she channeled higher self Avery for me. And I learned, and I always suspected it, not always, but for a while I've suspected that he shares a higher self with Eric. And at one point I got derailed from a joke that Robert told me, but I still kind of clung to that. I felt like it was a suspicion, but in that video, higher self Avery said it wasn't just a suspicion, it was a knowing. So I'm applying that knowing, that feeling of knowing. And that's kind of also where I'm at with that nugget I spoke about that Volty gave me about my fairy boy, about my twin. because even though I was kind of afraid to hear the answer, I did not want to have disappointment. Mostly, I did not want to fall back into a pattern of needing to know. That was my main motivation for not, asking. I don't want to go back, so I don't want to go backwards. But Volty has assured me that once you cross that threshold, you cannot go back, and I can see that. Having said that, I have that knowing. I have that knowing that he's going to come back to me, and because I understand it from my experience with this higher self, Avery, I can apply it in other places. And I'm starting to get that. I'm growing my confidence. What else did I want to share about this? I know that there's more. There's so much to reflect on. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this off now and do the reflecting on another day. Oh, but I did want to thank people. Again, I read your YouTube comments. I don't always respond to them. Volty, once again, has assured me that this is all about me, and I kind of misspoke. I was like so grateful to Michelle, and I'm like, just like Volty said, if I only help one person, then I've done enough. He didn't say that at all. He said this is all about me, and I only need to worry about helping myself. So even if I had only one viewer, that's still enough. But I don't. I have a lot of viewers, and it's not about the numbers. I'm not like, I don't care if I get more, but looking at the amount of views lets me know where the interest lies, and people are interested in my stories, and so that, that bolstered my confidence, and plus the confidence. You guys are so good about saying to me, what you're doing helps me too. So thank you for that. And I apologize for not being more personal and direct in addressing it, but I'm addressing it now. I'm reading it and I'm appreciating it, and it does help me. So thank you for that. Okay, so I think that's all I want to say about this. Thank you again, Michelle. You're so beautiful. I'm keeping you forever. Thank you, Volty. It was such an awesome moment. I'm going to watch this one again. And because it's a reading, if you've had a reading, you don't always get it the first time. So who wants to watch somebody else's reading twice? But if any of it resonates with you, rewind that part, listen to it again. I'm doing it, and I'm pulling more and more out of it. I loved this so much. Thank you guys. And part 2 with all of my epiphanies and shit coming soon. Thanks.
Hi guys, it's me, Carrie Silver Lining Minute, and today on Silver Linings, I have my friend Michelle Gray. And Michelle, do you have a website?
I do. Hi guys, it's thehealingheart.com, and so the Healing Heart, it's H-ART.
Oh, that's cute. Okay, I'll put a link too. But cool. Michelle here, she agreed months ago to come and be on Silver Linings and help me debunk some mysteries. And so I'm nervous about this. And the person that's going to come today is Volty. I invited him a while ago. I really wasn't sure who I wanted to have, and I love him. I trust him the most, I think, even more than Fairy Girl right now, because he gives it to me straight. And I know that's why he knows that he's here today. Hi, Volty. How are you?
He says hello, and he's saying thank you for inviting him this way. He says this is fun. This is a new connection for me. So he says that this has been fun for me too, which it has been, because his energy is very he's sweet and amazingly gentle, but he's got this very direct way to him, like very direct in what he wants to say. And I think, yes, he's saying that he's the one that decided to come, although I do feel Eric here as well. But he wants to help you through this. And what he has already said is that this is a big, he's saying recalibration, a big integration stage for you. And so the way he said it to me is, this is exciting. This is an exciting time. May not feel that way completely,
yes,
but it's actually a really good thing.
Oh, thank you. I'm going to start getting teary already. Thank you. You told me before we started that you already have all kinds of information. I'm going to let you go with it for a little bit. Wow.
Okay. Yeah, we've been writing some notes here. He's been telling me a few things. So what I'll do is I'll just kind of touch the topic, and then I feel like he's going to jump in and say some stuff, and I know that you'll want to ask them stuff too, so we'll just go with it.
Okay. Our specialty.
Okay. So the first thing that he had said to me is, when I asked him, when we first were connecting with your energy, and I asked him, what's going on with Carrie right now? Like, where's she at? What's like, why is she in the space that she's in right now? And he had said that this was a lot about the balance, and like I just said, about integration and recalibration. And how he's explained it to me is, he said that you have spent your entire life learning how to keep up with the energy, learning how to, and he says, and so when you are living life keeping up, then you get into that pattern, and you don't often notice how open you truly are and how unlimited you truly are. And he says that's what this is about right now, is there's a lot of balance that is occurring. And he says there's so much light, and what he wrote down here is, the light is big, but he says it's also he says it's about balance, because what he was showing me was your chakra systems, and he was also showing me the energy around you being very high vibrational spirit and very up in that area. So everything is he says, you have been learning how to integrate the heart, but it's not been integrating the heart for anyone else. It's been integrating the heart for yourself. And he says the experiences that you've been going through have been able to help you recognize yourself. And then he's just kind of saying, that's going to trip her up for a second. But he says, this is really all that this is truly about. He says, Carrie, this really is all about you. And he says, the pain that you have felt and the pain that you have lived in all your life doesn't have to be felt anymore. But it's only you that decides when that ends. It's you that gets to that page. And he says, okay, yes, he's going to have me read this that we wrote down. Balancing healing and spiritual discipline with self-loving and self-caring. And I said, well, what exactly does that mean? Like, let's put that into terms. Like, let's put that into
a plan.
What can Carrie do? Yeah. And he says, this is about consistency, about your attitude towards yourself.
Okay.
Because you're really good at it going on the outside to everyone else. But when it comes right in on the inside, that's where it's easier to stay with what you know with spirit. He says all this high vibrational, but he says, but really what it is about integrating life. It's integrating the life in you, the truth in you. And he says that's true self-love. And so you do that by looking at how you're directing that for yourself, because he shows me that he says forgiveness. He's bringing the word forgiveness right in front of us here. And he says, forgiveness is really about you and your heart. And this has all been the untying and the undoing of all of the pain. And he says, shows me like belt straps, snap, 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 all of that pain from the past. That's what's been done. That's what all of this has been about.
Yes.
He says, that's all of what you have experienced. So he says, okay, yeah, he's reminding me that, okay, we wrote it down here, how he said, yes, okay. So your body needs time to adjust to the light that's available to you.
Okay.
So he says what that means is that when you are going through experiences that feel very painful, and he says, now you know this, had we have told you or said to you certain experiences, or you're going to get to this point and it's going to feel like a dead end, or you're going to get to this point and it's going to be monotonous, you'd be like, well, I'm not doing that. I don't want to do that. He's like, we wouldn't tell you or couldn't tell you, because there's also every decision that you would make for yourself in how you felt about yourself, because this is all about your love for yourself. If we were to tell you, it would change timelines. It would mess things up. And you already felt like you were doing that. And he says, but the truth is, there was nothing being messed up, and no one was, he's saying, like the collective of who you've spoken to in spirit, we're all working at different aspects of your heart, different aspects of where you're at. Because he shows me, like I see energy like in lines, and he shows me different timelines. So when you would go through something, there would be another timeline that you would ride on. And sometimes he says, and this happens for everyone, that we would fluctuate through these different timelines and have these different experiences, but the whole thing has always been to come back to ourselves and to be able to surrender the control or the fear, but to really look at, how do you treat yourself? How do you talk to yourself, and what kind of balance do you give yourself? Because he says, Carrie, you've been looking at trying to hold that together on the outside for others for a very long time. And then when you bring it back inside to yourself, he says, that's true too. He says, it's a challenge to work through that for yourself, meaning your intuition, you're bringing things together. And so he says, and back to Fairy Girl, he says, this is integration that's happening right now. So we're bringing more light to you. You're being helped right now to have more light brought to you, which means you're integrating your heart. You're integrating the highest aspect of you that's available to you, and that's happening right now. Because this is he says, a very overwhelming process. He says it's making you feel a lot of the ups and downs. Okay, he's going on just a little separate bit here. Okay, he's telling me to look at this. Where is it? Here we go. He says it like that too. He's like, there it is. And he like raises his finger. Right here. Okay, so he says, your mind in trying to figure things out and trying to, as you work through all of these processes, he says, you don't give yourself a break. You want so bad to work through all of this, but you don't give yourself a break. And this is exactly how he wrote this down. Going without downtime is like eating with no digestions and no bathroom breaks. And even though the food may be really, really good and amazing for you, too much of it is not good for you. Because he says that's where the overwhelm, the overexcitement, the very intense feelings become to a point of, how do I rein this back in? How do I rein this back in? And so he says, the reason why you have experienced periods of needing to rest is because your body truly is needing to rest, and so is your mind. And he says, and sometimes when we don't grab that for ourselves, that's how it comes about. And that is a very good thing, he says, because what's happening to you right now is a very big shift, and that light that wants to come in, he says, light, more consciousness, more awareness, that light is like sitting all around you and integrating as we speak. It's moving in as we speak. So he's showing your surgery as being like a clicking point, as being something that will integrate this light and allow you to rest. And he's saying, when I say rest, what makes you feel joy in life right here, right now? What makes you feel like a child right here, right now? Because he says, the child that you were did not feel loved, but you have the knowledge and ability to be able to give yourself the experiences in this moment right now so that you can feel that love. And he says, that's what you truly are desiring. That's what you truly inside desire. And it's about the power not being anywhere out here, but it being right in here, right with you. And you can experience in that. And he says, and he likes raising his finger a lot. He's like, and that is how everything comes full circle. Because when we take our will and we take our own power and we take discipline and commitment to our spiritual path, but bring that into absolutely everything that we do. And he says, bringing that into everything is bringing in balance with everything. And by doing that, he says, your integration also opens up your pathways, opens up your availabilities, because what you have chosen for yourself is to channel for yourself, is to have that direct communication. And that's what this is all about.
Okay.
It was going through these different paths, going through these motions, emotions, feelings, and depth to see what power you actually have. But now it's being able to have that knowledge and rein that power in and do something with it that's really going to give you the experiences that your heart truly desires. Because he says, you've done all the work. You've done it. Because
Yeah.
look where you are. You've done all this work. This is your gateway. So all this time you've been feeling that this gatepost has been way over here, or you've been seeing it as something that you need to meet. You've already met it. You're already here.
That's
So
how I
all
feel.
it is
I'm
now
out
is
the
it's
door. I feel that. I'm
yes,
here.
yes, yes. And he says, and that's the light. When you realize that nobody else opens up that door to more light, nobody else does it for you. You do it. And you do it by saying, okay, I'm ready. I'm ready to live. Because he says, rather than observe life, it's about living life, and living life from your heart at all times. And he says, and that changes in different ways, because how we work with our heart changes based on the experiences. But what does Carrie need? He says, what does Carrie need to feel? And if you don't know what Carrie, who you are in this moment, needs to feel, what does the child inside me need to feel? Do I need a hug? Do I need to call somebody that can help me work through this? Do I need to create? Do I need to play with my dog? What do I need to do to create those feelings within myself? Because he says that's the muscle that continues to flex, that builds and builds and builds. And before you know it, that momentum has given you smooth sailing. And then you feel in control of your own heart, because you know that you are able to supply and provide for yourself absolutely everything that you need. And at the same time, it's the beautiful acceptance of all of the human connection that you have integrated with everything else and all of the other spiritual connections that you have. He says that's the real life you came here to live. That's the real life that you came here to experience, was this full love within yourself. Because he says you will never ever feel the depth of acceptance on the outside until you feel that within yourself. And that's what's happening. That's the work that you've done. That's why you're at this gate, and that's where you're moving through right now. He says it's all in your choice what you want to create. It's a lot less of that path that's hard built. He's showing me like a blueprint. He says that blueprint changes based on what changes in here. And he shows it like dissipating and then kind of looking a little bit different. And he also says that the love that you so desire is not gone. It's not gone. And he means the connection. So the connection that you had with, he's calling it your twin, that's not gone. He says that connection in finding this within yourself and completing this within yourself, that brings itself back around. And he says, and not saying exactly how that exists or how that will be, because someone else's free will is involved in that. But he says it's meant to be that way. It's meant to come back around. So he says, surrender that feeling of loss. He says, you're allowed to grieve what you thought would be. You're allowed to, he says, you're allowed to feel. So allow yourself to feel the grief, and allow yourself to grieve the parts of you, the child in you, the denial that you felt, the rejection that you felt. He says, allow yourself to grieve all of that. But with all this knowledge, know that you are supported, because this is what brings you to this next level of you. This is what brings you everything that you've worked so hard on, balances it right into your heart and blows it right back outwards. He says, and that changes your whole reality. And that's what this is about. And he says, and that's why you are who you are, doing what you're doing, because so many people in this world need this for themselves and need to understand this for themselves. And he says that you feel so deeply, and you chose to be able to experience this outwardly so that other people could share. And he says that's part of you and your healing. That's part of, this is for healing. And he's just laughing, saying, you always say that it's all about me, or you make jokes about it, but this really is. He says, this really is all about you, because even if you only had one watcher, it wouldn't matter. This is all about you. This is all about your healing, not about anything else on the outside. And he says, and another thing is, he says, absolutely everything else that you're desiring, that you're thinking about, he says, you've got all of this inspiration within you and feel like you're not sure where to put it. Where do I put this? And what do I do with this? And he says, all you have to do is just that work just of what we talked about, and everything else will continue to come in clarity right when it's meant to. He says that's all part of the trust part. He says, trusting that you're able to be as vulnerable as possible with your own heart. Be as vulnerable and allow yourself. Well, he said, there's no going back. Let's put it that way.
Right.
It's not
I can't
possible.
be anything but vulnerable. I don't know how to switch that shit off.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask some questions. Can I do questions, or does he still have stuff to say?
Yep. No, he says, go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So one of the questions was, and I think he answered it, but he just threw a bunch of stuff at me real quick. When he was saying that I was on all these different timelines, Volty, is that going to explain why my September trip was in one day and out the next day? Because I'm having such a hard time. I'm feeling lied to. Because I know I wasn't ready to go see him. Now, in retrospect, I know that, but it was a done deal for a while.
Yes. He says, he's using the word precisely. That's precisely right. So he says, let's look at terming this slightly different. Okay. So the human part of you feels that it was a lie, or that it was some sort of a fabrication, or to get you to do something else. He said, so yes, a trick. He says, allow yourself to feel that, because that's the human part of you. Okay. That's okay. But he says, also remember that your soul, and he says how you are designed, how we are all designed as human beings, is that we have some things on our path that are going to be, say, a little bit more solid, that are less movable, okay, that we're going to experience. How we experience it is up to us, which is where our free will comes into play, how we choose to experience through it. And he says, so when we look at this specific experience, he says, let's look at what you felt and what you needed to come to realization in, but also understand that as you, and he's saying, as you felt differently. So he's talking about, did you feel differently in a very short period of time? Or, because he's saying your intuition, how you felt differently. And this is about trust for yourself. And he says, that's the part where you feel the trick, because you feel like if you had have just been told that in the first place, you wouldn't have even bothered doing that, right? And he says, so this experience was necessary to go, but it was not meant to be some sort of a trick. It was more of the choices that you made for yourself, and to be able to come back around. He says she's not going to like this part. He says to be able to come back around and realize that it's about listening to you and what you feel directly inside. Because for us to be able to tell you to continue listening to your intuition, or to listen to who's speaking to you, because you're being directly spoken to. Mm-hmm. He says, because at any time you could have said, I don't feel this is right, or I don't feel I should do this. And he says, and sometimes that's hard to hear, but would that have created a different feeling in you sooner? So it's not a lost experience. He says, but understanding how powerful you are, and understanding that there is nothing that is a trick. And there's also, he's saying that your guidance can only give you as much as you are, put it into words a little bit. Yeah, yes, receptive, and where your mind is already set. And so he says, if there's a timeline, imagine it this way. Yes, we have vision. So he's saying broad vision, but understand that it's based on how you're perceiving it and what the trajectory is of what you're going to do, that we can only go so far with you.
Okay. I've been using that word trajectory a lot lately, and so it's funny that he did too. But I have this is all going to be connected with the stuff I just went to, that trip, the twin. I have to like re-pick at that question because I wasn't even sure if I wanted to know. I didn't know if I wanted the answer, if we were back on track or not, because I didn't want the disappointment. But and even if he gave me the answer I wanted to hear, I know that things can change. I have learned that lesson for sure, that nothing's written in stone because of their free will.
And he says, yes, he just wants to agree with you. He says the point he really wants to drive home with you is that you're the one in the driver's seat, and your high view is your higher self. That high view is right up here, and that high view there's still something between you, that it's never going to be a certain type of clarity you might expect, but it's a growing relationship, meaning that you see clearly from the higher perspective more often as you go through. But he says that you have seen it in a certain way for a reason, to allow you to see it in this way that is happening right now. Because he says what we're saying right now is going to make a lot of sense to you as you go forward in these next few months.
Okay.
Because he says the consciousness shift in you is quite rapid. You have moved into a very quick period.
Wow. Okay. I'm hoping that, is this information going to be relevant to other people too, Volty? Well, it doesn't matter. It's all about me.
He said, well, and he says, but the point is what's all about you is all about everybody else too,
Okay.
if they're willing to view it in the way. So he says, if you're watching this, then there's something there for you.
Okay. I like that too. I feel like that too. So this is a question that I feel like will benefit other people. This was one of my most confusing things. One of the mysteries I wanted solved is that, and I understand that they were trying with all their might to get me to that place of surrender. I made it. I'm there. So maybe I am allowed to have this bit of information now. I fear a tiny bit of going backwards, but I don't think I can uncross my threshold. I think I have made that journey. So my question is that when I was, in the thick of this, towards the very end, I have plenty of my guides saying, you got to give up this guy, give up the twin, surrender that shit. But I got Fairy Girl on the other corner saying, whether you go see him or whether you don't see him, don't give up on your manifesting. You keep your fantasizing up. That's how you manifest. So I'm still in love with him. That shit's still going on in my brain. But I don't know if that's a waste of my time or not now. And I feel I can't stop it anyway at this point. So I don't know if it's going to taper off or what the benefit of that is, or is it a hindrance?
Well, he said this is a very good question. This is a very good question. And he says that now is the time to help give you a little clarity on this, because he says there are two parts here that we're looking at. And so he goes, and they're both right. So we look at Fairy Girl, and then we look at what your guides and everyone are saying about letting go. It's all true. It's all true. And so he says, remember that you live in this world that is not black and white, but many, many, many shades. And so when you are at a point of surrender, you want to think about how you feel and where your focus is right now. And what your guides are all trying to do is to help you pull the focus off of the outside and put it into the inside. So they're there to help you move along to get into a place that will give you the experiences that you desire. If you feel that the reason why you are moving forward or need to know what's next is because of this feeling of desire being fulfilled in who you love and in wanting to obtain that love, then he says that will naturally create obstacles and pain, because your focus of where your fulfillment is coming from somebody else.
Okay.
And that's the purpose of that relationship, because he says that is meant to be able to, you've got that depth there that you just can't believe how powerful it is and how magnetic it is. And you just cannot understand for the life of you why that cannot be good and returned.
Right.
But he says energy is an amazing thing, and it can never be destroyed, but it can be transmuted. And so he says it's always important to remember this, that he's using the term, if you love someone, you set them free.
Right.
And so if you truly love someone, you set them free. Well, if you truly love yourself, you set yourself free. You set yourself free first, which allows you to set someone else free. When that energy is no longer focused on the feeling of, I feel I need to know this, and he goes, and you're already in this, he says, you have already hit the button of surrender.
Yes.
That has already happened, and that's why things are opening this way. So can you go back? No, you cannot go back. If you went back with, as he says, connected and feeling as you are and as far as you have come, it would be a very difficult way to live. It would be very challenging, and you would know immediately that you would need to change direction. So he says it's important to remember that this is all about the feeling experience, because we do feel. And so the feeling in you is not to give up on love for him, is not to give up on dreaming about him or dreaming about that connection. Because let's look at it this way. He says maybe this will help you. Think about something that you really desire, whether it be that really fancy vacation or this special experience to share with someone. It doesn't matter what the experience is that's in your heart. If you feel it's not with you, it's grief. But the true grief is coming from the place of being disconnected from spirit. Because when we're in grief and we are in this monotony of it will never end, I'm so frustrated, I'm so angry, we cannot feel that guidance. That's a disconnection. And when we perpetuate that disconnection, that feeling then grows and starts to create that and those experiences. Now, he says, that's not where you are. You have already moved past that. But for anybody that is doing this, let's look at this gate as, I've got all of these roads in front of me. All my doors are open. And at the end of each road, I get to insert the dream. I may not get to say exactly how it's going to happen. I may not be able to put definitions to it, but I can put a feeling to it because I know how I feel, and how I feel is real.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to put that feeling up there at the end of that gate. And I'm not going to put too much detail to it, because if I do that, that starts to close down some of these doors. So they're not all open.
Okay.
But it's to know that that fairy girl is, what she's saying to you is, by you giving up on hope, you go into a spiral. You go into a completely different place. And that's giving up on the love that is available to you through you continuing to work through your process.
Okay.
So he says, be careful in not separating everything, but also why you feel the confusion is when you are in grief and you are in that disconnection, or you feel that you're not truly hearing, then you become in that space of depending on too many outside voices. And he says sometimes it's a purposeful, he's like, what's the right word? It's like a purposeful creation of confusion to help you stop everything.
Yes.
Go, enough. enough.
Yes.
It's too much. You're saying this and you're saying I can't take it anymore. It's fucking with my head.
To that point. Did you watch the one I just published a couple days ago?
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, you're hitting on all this stuff. I was like, enough, I can't deal with any of you. I'm just gonna go right here. So they were successful.
Yeah. Yes. And so and that's what he was. I watched it with him. So that's where I was getting all the notes from.
That's so funny.
He was filling in some of the blanks. Yeah. I was interviewing him. So he just said that, that intricate, yes, that's the word that he was using, intricate design. It's an intricate design, but the design comes from what you express. It's what you express from your mind and your heart. So the awareness is knowing what you have healed, all the knowledge that you have of why you have healed it, and to be able to integrate it, because he says it's a lot of intellectual knowledge that you have, and integrating it is all about to yourself, not to anyone else. It's all about you. And he says that is exactly what you are meant to do. And in doing this, remember that you send out vibrations, because he says he's showing like sonar, like everything like boop, 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 all going on. Exactly. And that's what you do. You send that sonar out. So as you are bringing yourself more and more and more in alignment, you're going to feel that certain things don't feel as hard, because he's also saying that the pain and that feeling of despair, that's lifting. Yes, and that's really part of it. And you have assistance with that, and that comes from the choice of enough, I'm done, I surrender, because surrender is the biggest thing.
It is. It's so hard to get there. You don't even recognize it many times. Sometimes you feel like you're being proactive and trying to solve your problems, but all you're doing is creating more control. When you just throw your hands up in the air and walk away, can't do that anymore. It'll be okay.
Yeah. And he says, and you learn it to the radical degree that you require it. And it's not that your guides are handing you this, you're the one. He says trajectory again. You're the one with the trajectory. You're the one that goes, okay, this is where I'm going, this is where I'm going. And he says, and everything aligns to specifically suit you and what you need to propel you. Because he says everything that you feel that maybe does not feel good is so essential, because there are alarm bells to tell you it doesn't need to stay this way.
Okay.
And it's really just accepting why I feel this way and saying, do I love myself? Can I love myself in this moment and just allow myself to feel like shit and be mad? Okay, and I do it and I get over it and I move on. Because he says that you have already been doing this, and it's the corners being dusted out right now. It's the little corners, and he's got a really old broom. It's like a great big old wooden looking broom with like looks like hay tied around it, and he's doing this in the corners.
Well, I said that I've spent and you guys said the same thing. I spent so much time reacting, catching up, and now at that gate, I'm not reacting to what's already happened to me. I'm ready to start creating. And I mentioned in that other video that I don't even know what's beyond that box. I don't know how. I hear you. I'm powerful, but what does that mean? And I'm looking forward to exploring that. I'm going to go back to
that's what this is about. Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead.
I want to ask this question, because I don't know if this is the truth or not, but based on what you said, a few minutes ago, when you said everything was as the way it's supposed to be, I had wondered if I didn't create a longer learning curve for myself by learning the knowledge about, he doesn't like to say names, so I'll say Twin One. He's so funny. Fairy Girl and Minerva don't care, but he's always very respectful about names.
Yeah.
So with Twin One, Fairy Girl gave me that really juicy nugget that, I'll get to earn that prize. I get to catch that carrot one day. And I wonder if that knowledge made me stagnant, because I just waited and waited and waited instead of saying, fuck it, I'm surrendering this thing that's never going to happen. Did me knowing that it was going to happen change things, or was that
So
it?
he started talking like halfway through when you weren't even
Because I've
finished
been
yet. He's
asking him
going,
all week.
yes, he goes, no, he's not calling it that you made it longer. He's saying he's calling it a necessary detour. And
Okay.
he's talking about the depth of where you were, so in your emotions, and he says the need for the experience. So he says that you being told that the carrot's being dangled was very necessary for you to hear. That was very much part of it. So he's not saying that was
I
he
didn't.
says you
It wasn't
chose.
created through extra information. Okay.
No, it was he says that the design was very much because he shows your guides like you kind of going this way, and he shows these little hands of like boop 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 boop
Bumper bowling.
boop. Yeah, exactly, like bumper cars. Yes, and like
No, the
just
bumper
kind of
bowling. You know how they cheat.
bumper. Oh yes, 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 yes. That's pretty funny. But yes, like totally. He's very he's really like got this stoicness to him a little bit too, and I feel like he just wants to like be fun and let it all out because he's just
He
anyways,
is. He's an anomaly.
yeah.
He has a little. He's because he hangs out with me and Heather on the side, and he's not all proper. He's fun.
It feels like he's trying. Well, he's not trying. It's how I'm assuming because I've got that new introduction with him, so that
Yes,
I
to
can
be
feel
proper
the
with
stuff
you.
behind him.
Let your frillies out, Volty. So okay, so let me ask this next question. I kind of touched on it, but then I went somewhere else. What kind of things can, not just me, but anybody, is there any kind of nuggets, any beans you can spill for us on what is outside the box? I mean, what does that mean? What happens when I open the gate? You don't have to give me a specific, but maybe an example of what somebody, I don't know.
So he says, and there are many people at that gate point right now.
Mm-hmm.
So he says it's okay. He says identifying where you are right now, meaning that keeping some sort of he says, and everybody will do it in a different way, but keeping some sort of a record of all the inspiration or the ideas of the, because he says it is about creation.
Okay.
So there are, as each trajectory, as each he doesn't want me to say level.
Okay.
I want to say
gate.
level, but as each gate, yes, that there is something there, and depending on how far you want to go, how big do you want to dream, is how big that can be. So he's saying, for example, if somebody wanted to meet Oprah, okay, they wanted to meet Oprah, and he's why he says Oprah, I don't know, but he says if somebody wanted to meet Oprah, and that was where their dream was right now, as they say isolated, yes, that's what I want, and they put that, say, up above their shelf and just kept kind of looking at it and throwing love to it and dreaming around it. He says it's about manifesting the life, accepting the life right now, manifesting what it is that you desire, but it's also recognizing where you are, because those desires are going to grow. Those desires might shift, they might change. And he says, for you, he's talking about your business has different pockets to it. So there are different pieces of you or different aspects of you that can continue to push out and grow. And he says over this next little while, you are going to have more inspiration with the directions that you want to take it. Because he says there's a lot of different directions that you could take it. There's a lot
Wow.
of different things you could do. And he says this right here is developing more. So he says as you continue to grow, he's showing the rising of more people requiring this type of practicality, this type of how you lay it out and just say it how it is. And so he says your path has always been about being you. and being allowed to be you and to be allowed to let it out without feeling like you are closed in. And so he says, and by sharing that, that allows other people to. So he says it's not so much about getting really detailed. It's about taking care of what's already there. It's about tying up loose ends in your life. And those are the little details and cleaning up that you can do that will push you closer to what it is that you desire. But he also is saying that with all of that being said, it's really not about the big desire, because it's what you don't expect. It's the little gifts and the little side turns that you don't expect because of something that you thought that you desired. So it's being open to that. It's the journey. It really is. And he says that, yes, Carrie, you are at this blank page. So are you at this lifetime where you can truly write it the way you want it? He says, will you allow yourself to do that? Will you allow yourself to really write the script that you want? Will you really allow yourself to dream absolutely as big as your mind will allow you to dream? Because that is what this is about. And he says there's a piece of you that wants to be practical in some ways. There's a piece of you that wants to hold on to the security and the practicality. But he says what's happening is that part of you and all the love in you and the higher part of you are all coming together. And what that does is that helps you continue to feel supported within yourself so that you can feel vulnerable enough to throw those dreams out over and over and over. He says, this is new. This is very new. This is not what you have done in other lifetimes.
Really?
Being able to create your life. Yes, this is the life that it is. He's showing it like a ripped page. Write the script, and he's got a feather. Write the script. Write the script.
Oh, cute. I haven't. Yeah. So this is like a whole new experience for Fairy Girl too, then maybe. Wow.
Yes, with you. Yes.
Right.
In this, like, because he said this lifetime, this is the one that you're focused in, and so you have the awareness that you can pull from everywhere else, and now you know that you are meant to be able to do that. So you are meant to channel. You are meant to do this because you chose that, because you asked for it. Not because anyone hung it before you and said you need to run to this point. That's the part of your mind that always felt like you were keeping up.
Yes.
Like you needed to keep up. And he says, so let that go. Let that go. That's done. You've done all that. You're here. You've got this awareness. So he says now is really about the creating of this life. Because
that's fun.
He said there's no more new experiences that need to bring up pain unless you allowed it to.
Ooh, love that. How awesome is that? I already kind of knew it, but how awesome is it to hear that you're done with that fucked up broken heart bullshit that you've been suffering from for so long. My Band-Aid's been ripped off, but I don't even know where to go with it yet. But that's okay, because I will figure it out. This is so exciting and beautiful.
Awesome. Feels really good.
I didn't really know what to expect exactly. I didn't expect this. Michelle and Voltaire, I'm so grateful. I know it will affect other people, but just like he got done saying to me, if it only helps one person, there you go. If you only help me, you have helped me so much, and I appreciate the information that you have channeled for me. Look at it.
I can feel it. I can feel it. I can feel it. That makes me really happy. That's awesome.
Thank you. I'm not even sure what I had, like all these things I wanted to say in thanks and closing up, but I'm too feely.
Enjoy the feelies.
Yes. Volty, do you have any parting words for me? For everybody, anybody?
He says to remember that nothing is ever truly apart. Everything is a part of.
How beautiful. Well, I'll get it.
He's really flowing. He's really sweet.
We'll have to get that quote. Make Heather jealous and put that tattoo on it. Just kidding.
Oh, I gotta tell you too, he's brought her up. Because he keeps saying Heather, like, send her my love, send her my
I
love,
was gonna
send her my
ask,
love.
you have a message for Heather, because I know she's not gonna get like jealous or anything. She'll probably be thrilled to see him in this way, but I'm so glad that he
He
sent
just,
her his love.
he's, he just, he was, he said it more than once throughout this entire time. He'll pop Heather in and just show her. So he's just saying that he just wants her to know that it's just another direction, love from another direction. Like he's throwing a little like dart with a heart, like the old fashioned Valentines.
Sweet.
He's like throwing it at her and just wants her to receive that love from this direction.
Oh, how sweet. He's so romantic. I love you,
He's
Volty.
romantic. My goodness. He says he loved you too.
I know. He's like one of
Awesome.
my best friends. Isn't that cool to have like a spirit as one of your besties?
Yes. Absolutely is. Changes the world.
Yeah, so thank you, Volty, for letting me feel like I can trust you when I trust anybody else over there. And I know that they didn't want me to, and that was intentional, and that they're all on my team, whether I have trust or not. And I know the ultimate goal is to trust myself, and I know that I'm there. I know that I'm in that place, and this just further, I guess, propelled me and gave me a little bit more confidence, even though you know something, but sometimes, like you said, it has to integrate and fall into place. Intellectually, I know
Totally.
lots of things. Putting him into practice is another story.
Yes.
So I'm on that cusp, and I'm doing my work, and I'm going to hang up this meeting, but I don't want you to go yet. I have one secret question I'm going to steal from you. And basically, and I also appreciate that I'm going to have to change the name of this show to Carrie Gets a Free Reading as long as she shares it with the world show.
I don't know how to do it any other way. That's how it comes out.
So I'm going to sign off, and I'm going to thank Michelle, and oh, this is so beautiful. So I hope you guys got something out of it, and I don't know, that's it. I'm still emotional. Like, I don't want to forget my question. So goodbye, and thank you to everybody out there watching. Thanks for the support, and give Michelle a message. Get a reading from her. Look how fabulous she was. All right, don't go away, girl.
Thank you. Okay.